In this tutorial, we're going to talk about activation links and how they behave in relation to labels. So you can see in my code window that I have a code button called taxi. It's a 2-click button with a lead time of 4. Then I have some labels, north, south, west, east, and turn and straight. So let's just watch the video for a moment here. Let me just point out that you might be able to see this taxi on the right side, which is about to enter the intersection, and for my purposes, it's entering the intersection from the south. So, in terms of watching the video, right now I could click on taxi, and I could click on south and straight, presuming, it's going to go straight through the intersection. But I can almost, in this situation, make all of those observations at once. So this is a good situation to take advantage of activation links. So I'm going to rewind the video here, and I'm in edit mode. And if I click on north, you can see that the links are presented down here. We're going to talk about the activation link. So again, I'm on the north label. When I click on the activation link menu, I get this drop-down menu, and it's just a list of all the codes and labels in the window. You can see as I drag up and down on the menu, the little arrow sort of hops and skips around to let you know which button you want to link to. So my thought process now is, when the taxi's in the intersection, right away I can identify that it's coming from the north, south, east, or west. So I'll go ahead and link each of these labels for the directions to taxi, because when I click on one of those labels, it will then automatically activate taxi for me. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm on north and I want to just drag to taxi. I'll click on south, go back to the menu, taxi. I'll go to west, click on the menu. Here's a little trick. If I press T for taxi, it'll just jump there. Then I can press return. And last one, T for taxi, return. So let's just take a look at that. First of all, if I go back to code mode now, because I have these activation links, I'll just pause the video here. You can see the taxi just went through. There's a lead time of 4 seconds. So if I click on north, or let's say south, it's coming from the south. You can see I clicked on south. Because I have this link, it automatically turned on taxi for me, which actually marked in 4 seconds earlier. And because the taxi is now exiting, I can just actually click on this taxi button to mark out. So that saved me a click by adding this activation link, right? I could just click on south instead of taxi first, south second, and then taxi again to mark out. So that's sort of one level of activation link. And we might also, be able to observe, like we said earlier, whether the vehicle is going straight or making a turn through the intersection. So why don't we take advantage of activation links as well by going to a second level. So you can see that I'm on turn, and in this case, we already know that this is coming from the south, but what if it's coming from any of the other directions? I want to be able to use turn and straight for all of those. So the easiest thing to do is actually, in this situation, going to lasso these labels, Command C to copy, click back in the white area, Command V to paste, and I can repeat that process to add these labels. So I'm taking advantage of duplicate labels, which yes, uses up a little more real estate in the code window, but because of the activation links is going to save me additional clicks. So you probably know where I'm going with this. I'll click on this turn, activation, we'll go to this. Oh, there's a good point to take advantage of is I just typed N and then return because I assumed it was going to link to this north button. I actually have another north button further down. So one way to remove this link is if I go back to turn, I could just go here and select the same button and it'll remove it. And let's add it to the proper north button there. All right, so I'll go ahead and finish this process. Okay, so I finished adding the links here, and let me just demonstrate that if I move this second label around, you can see there's actually two links there. It just looks like 1 since they're lined up right on top of each other. Okay, so now that I have both of those labels linked actively, let's say to this directionality label, and then that in turn is activating taxi, I can now go to code mode, and let's fast forward and find another taxi actually coming through the intersection. Here's one again, it's coming from the south. So right away, remember I have a 4-second lead time on taxi, so I'll actually let the taxi get through the intersection, and I can again see that it's coming from the south and going straight. So I can just click on straight, that activates south, which activates taxi, and now I can end taxi. So again, you can see it saves me a few clicks, and over a large volume of video, that's going to save me a lot of time. One other important point to make at this point is you might be thinking that if, let me go fast forward away from this instance. Let's just imagine there's a taxi coming through again. You might be thinking that because these links exist, if I click on, let's say, turn, which activates south and turns on taxi, that I could click on turn again, which would activate south and turn off taxi. But that's why these links are called activation links. It only activates, it doesn't deactivate. And as you might expect, you will learn how a deactivation link works in another video tutorial. So the point is you still need to end the code button independently.